But moving on to the Golden
That's
State
crazy.
Warriors, a team who did manage to retain their biggest guy in Draymond Green, but did have a core bench piece walk in Dante DiVincenzo. They'll be hoping to have their rookie Podziemski replace some of that. And Ty Jerome also leaves as well. So they do have some guard minutes that are going to have to get ate up by some young guys. But most importantly, Draymond's back. And as long as the three-man core of Curry, Clay, and Draymond are there, we know the Warriors are going to be in the picture.
They got to conquer those road demons that they had last season, man. They just that's the main thing for me. Like they got to do that. Bringing Draymond back, didn't see Draymond walking, so all that speculation was kind of funny because he just seemed like a Warrior lifer. We've kind of had this discussion before, so it's good to see Draymond back. We'll see if Brandon Podolski can provide something, as a young guy, because their draft picks have been kind of very hit or miss these last few years. Maybe Moses Moody can finally get consistent rotational minutes. Kuminga, we're just relying on those guys. So we'll see. But, the main thing for me, they just got to be better on the road this season, man, which I think they will. I feel like they just had, it got so bad to a point last year where it was just like, this is just kind of who we are. We're not winning road games consistently, man. But Ty Jerome, I think, might be a loss that could be felt a little bit. I feel like he played very solid for them when he did play. Obviously, Dante, you didn't have the money to give to him, so I understand him leaving. But I feel like Ty Jerome was retainable. I'm surprised that they didn't give him the contract that he got to leave. So, we'll see how that affects them. And I think Trace Jackson Davis, he was somebody that a lot of people have maybe a higher grade on. He was a good college player. So we'll see how he fits into the mold. But, Draymond coming back is the main piece. So they got that done. The Warriors will still be really good.
I feel so weird about this team going into next year because I keep thinking about it and I'm like, dude, Chris Paul is a Golden State Warrior. Like,
I didn't even mention that.
Is that not just like the strangest thing to y'all? Like, next season's gonna start and Chris Paul is going to be wearing a Golden State Warriors jersey.
Have y'all seen his interviews? It looks like they're holding him at gunpoint to talk about being on the Warriors, bro. It's so. I don't think we're gonna be able to really accept it until we see him on the court, passing the Steph to Clay, pick and rolls with Draymond. We're not gonna be able to even believe it's true until we actually see it.
Yeah, I'm very curious because I feel like Chris Paul is not even the player he was 2.5 years ago, right? Or even a year and a half ago. The way he was playing, especially early on in the 21-22 playoffs before the end of that Dallas series, there was some great, still clutch Chris Paul moments. He just hasn't really been that guy in a while. But at the same time, he's such a good playmaker that you got to think the ball movement on that team in that lineup has to just be phenomenal. You have Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green all on the same basketball court. Now, we know Clay's going to chuck up them shots. Clay, he not going to be a part of that ball movement, but all of them feeding Big Loon in the paint, bro, that five, I can just imagine playing some beautiful offensive basketball. So I think they're going to be very fun, even if Chris Paul is regresses even further from what he was even last year, which wouldn't be too surprising because at this point he's going to be 39 next year. It's just the nature of how this thing goes. But overall, if the Warriors got their big three in town, the window is open. They're only a year removed from a championship, and there was some big chemistry issues last year. There was the big road thing last year, and I don't think anything like that can even be replicated if they try. The Warriors, for the entirety of their dynasty, were a good road team, but then last year they were just it was an anomaly. That's really the only way to describe it. I don't even know how something like that is possible for a team that has that much experience playing together, and especially just traveling so well over the course of their entire run together. So I think they'll be good. I think they'll be fine. And especially with Jordan Poole being out, which could have caused a lot of awkwardness last year. We don't know the full situation, but I think they'll be revamped. I think they'll be revitalized. And I'm not going to say they're a title favorite or anything, but like we opened with, they're still very much in the picture. That window is still open.
Like you said, Gabe, they're definitely going to be fun. My problem is how practical is Chris Paul on this team, especially on the defensive end of the floor. If you're talking about rolling out lineups that have Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, I'm not so sure how that works on the defensive end. I think there's definitely a lot of nights where that becomes a bit problematic. Dante DiVincenzo is also off the team now. So, again, not great size, but at least someone that can play your 2 spot that can defend a little bit better. So that'll be the interesting thing for them is how do they manage those rotations? How do they manage Chris Paul, Curry, Clay minutes? How they space those guys out in the rotations? And like we mentioned earlier, it's just how do they continue to replace their depth? I mean, Otto Porter's left. Now Dante DiVincenzo's gone. Now Gary Payton's back for next year still, but they just continue to seem to lose 1 or 2 core bench pieces every year. And they just continue to draft guys to replace it. And so far, that hasn't quite done the job. Now, I will give Moses Moody his credit. He looked quite good at points throughout the postseason last year. Maybe that's someone who finally starts to emerge into the rotation, and that's a bit more of a Dante DiVincenzo replacement for them. In which case, great. Maybe Podziemski has a good rookie season, and he can come in and give them some guard minutes as well. But they're definitely going to need some of those guys to step up because they just haven't replaced it adequately otherwise. They're not really free agent players at all over the last couple of years now as far as adding quality depth to this team. So the Chris Paul addition is interesting, but they're definitely going to have a lot of experimentation to start the year to figure out what works and what doesn't between Chris Paul and Curry and Clay and how they make that all work. But on the offensive end, there's definitely going to be some fun moments and some fun nights, especially when guys are hitting some shots and Paul and Curry are just feeding balls left, right, and center to everyone.
Yo.
Hey, major. Didn't they sign Corey Joseph too?
Yes.
Hey,
Corey Joe, which is a solid sign and a much better
Raptors legend
shooter and
Raptors legend.
Raptors legend.
Texas Longhorn Corey Joseph, man. Let us see it. Yeah, the Chris Paul fit is going to be so intriguing to see because this is a fast-paced team. Chris Paul is more of a slower player these days. But I'm excited to see Steph maybe being able to play off the ball a little more because I feel like the last couple of years he's had to be on the ball a lot since, like, Iggy was washed. They didn't really have, like, much backup guard depth to where, you know, Steph could play with somebody. Because for the better part of their dynasty, they always had, like, Iggy. Even, like, before the dynasty started, they had, like, Jarrett Jack. So, like, Steph could play a little more off the ball where he's the most –
respect to Sean Livingston, bro.
Sean Livingston too. I always forget about Sean. Like, see, they had like a lot of guys that they can give the ball, say, hey, let's let Steph roam a little bit off the ball because that's where he's at his best truly is as an off-the-ball threat. So hopefully we can see that a little more. Defensively, definitely concerning. But if anybody can figure it out, it's Steve Kerr, it's the Warriors. So they could probably make it work, but we'll see.
It just doesn't feel real. It won't feel real to me. Like Chris Paul and Steph Curry playing together, no way.
They borderline hate each other.
That Chris Paul, he's on their team now.
They've been beefing for years. Curry dropped Chris Paul back in the day. I mean, the Warriors just used to abuse the Clippers in the regular season, man.
Hey, bro, fraudulent franchise.
It can't be worse than like the tension with Jordan Poole last year, though. It can't be worse than that, right? Like, there's no way.
Definitely not. It's definitely an upgrade in the morale standpoint, if nothing else, until CP3 starts cursing out Draymond, and then we'll see how that goes. But